Andre Onana's situation is one to watch this summer as he turns up to Carrington with his agent. Chelsea are pushing to sign Liam Delap ahead of United. Ruben Amorim can't believe how bad this United team are, according to Roy Keane. David Ornstein links us with Benjamin Sesko. Sir Jim is hiring an F1 data engineer to improve our data analysis. PSG are worried about United's interest in Desire Doue, and Antonio Conte is still interested in Alejandro Garnacho. All this plus more in today's video as we run through all the latest Manchester United news and transfer news that will keep you right up to date with everything. Welcome to Man United Review. My name's Jamie. Before we get into it, smash a like on the video. Let's jump straight into it. So, dare I ask, give us your thoughts and your feelings after the match yesterday and the result and the performance. Get it off your chest. Hit me up in the comments. Let me know what you're kind of thinking and feeling. For me, you know, overall, it's just the same as it has been all season. No threat up front, mistakes at the back. You know, and that's it. That's a summary of Man United. Constantly making mistakes at the back. Can't score goals. I actually thought it was quite, timid from us yesterday in the second half, barring the first 20 minutes. I thought the first 20 minutes we actually looked pretty good. Had a lovely move between Bruno and Xerxes. What a goal that would have been. I can't remember the last time we saw some quick interchanging one-touch football in and around the penalty area. So that was nice to see. And then I thought, oh, hold on. We might be up for it here. And then Newcastle scored. Yes, we got the equaliser in the end of the first half, but then the second half, just folded like cheap origami, which is standard for some of the players that we've got in the team. Just not quick enough, not strong enough, not clever enough, not brave enough, no passion, no desire, no personality on the pitch. And it's just kind of, it's all about the Europa League now. I'm not necessarily surprised that we lost to Newcastle. I did kind of, it was annoying the fact that we lost so heavily because Newcastle I didn't think were particularly good. I thought we were, like I said, large part in the first half, I thought we were actually better than them. But, you can't win games if you're playing if you're consistently making mistakes like that at the back. And the only thing I can think, the summer cannot come soon enough because this is not a coaching issue in my opinion. This has been going on for some of these players for years and definitely for this season, even under Erik ten Hag as well. I just cannot wait to see the back of some of these players and genuinely can't wait to see them never wear a Manchester United shirt again, because this is the worst team I've ever seen in my lifetime, the worst bunch of misfits that I've ever seen in my lifetime as well. Some of the players we've got in our team and in our squad are not fit enough to lace the boots of some of our previous Manchester United teams as well. And I just can't wait for the summer to get this nightmare season over with so we can ship out a majority of these players, hopefully, and start kind of bringing in some players that can help us move forward, because I think that's the only answer. We need to buy our way out of this problem, because I don't necessarily think it's all a coaching issue. It's a personality issue. It's a mentality issue. It's a... it's just we don't have good players, and that's as simple as that. But give us your thoughts on the match in the comments below. So Roy Keane had the following to say: "I bet you Amorim can't believe how bad the Manchester United team is." That's Paul Scholes said something similar actually after the Lyon tie as well, which is what it's all about now for the rest of the season. And I bet he is surprised by the quality of some of the footballers that we've got in the team. And not just the quality, the mentality of some of the players that we've got in the team as well. Amorim himself, the kind of downside with the injury to Joshua Zirkzee, there's no news as of the time of recording this video whether he's going to be out, because I thought he was actually one of the players, in stark contrast to the last time we played Newcastle when he got subbed off after 33 minutes, which in my opinion was harsh, but it is what it is. I actually thought he was our best player on the day, and such a shame for him to get injured as well. Pulled a hamstring. That could be end of the season, depending on obviously how severe it is and depending on his obviously body and how he recovers and stuff as well. But potentially no Xerxes for Thursday, which is really annoying. That was the most annoying thing about the kind of game for me, was the injury to Joshua Zirkzee. And as I mentioned earlier, I just think the state of the squad is horrendous. I don't think there's been thought process to some of the signings. And isn't it mad? I've seen this earlier, to have a look at the kind of signings that we've made under Erik ten Hag. And if you look through there, tell me in the comments, right, how many of those players would you actually keep at Man United next season? Because I'm going through it and I'm thinking Yoro, Ugarte, De Ligt, Xerxes, Mazraoui. Yeah, and that's about it for me. Martinez, but again, he's got injury problems, been out for pretty much last two seasons through injuries. But barring those, I genuinely couldn't care if any of those other players leave. In fact, I hope a lot of them do kind of go as well, which is a sad state of affairs, isn't it? To kind of think that we spent £616 million and effectively we wouldn't miss a lot of those players if they kind of got sold again. And it's and that's the state of the squad at the moment. That's the position that we're in. We just don't have good players. But give us your thoughts in the comments below. Get it off your chest. Give us your kind of rundown of the game, because I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on it. But give us a shout below. Now let's move on to some other news. So let's stick with Andre Onana. Was obviously the big talking point before the game with him being dropped, not even in the match day squad. Before the game, David Ornstein said the following, that Andre Onana professionally accepted Ruben Amorim's decision to leave him out of today's squad. Andre Onana switched agents in recent months. That was meant for a new contract or improved terms at Manchester United. His agent may now have to look at trying to move his player. Which is really interesting from David Ornstein, suggesting that, obviously I brought you the news before, we've discussed it in the past as well about him changing agencies, and normally you only do that if you're after a new contract or if you're looking to move, and there was no signals at the time that Onana was going to get a new contract. Maybe that was his intention, but now it looks more likely it's going to be for a move. On whether or not he's going to make the game for Lyon, give us your thoughts. Actually, would you bring him back into the team for the Lyon game? Do you think Bayinda did enough to start against Lyon? Said before the game in yesterday's video that it was kind of an audition for Bayinda, that hopefully if he does well, he might then, it gives Amorim a decision to kind of make. I'm not sure what decision he's going to make now. It's like, picking between whether to get kicked between the legs or poked in the eyes. I don't know which way he's going to go, in my opinion, because I don't think Bayinda covered himself particularly in any glory with the mistake at the back. Although, like I said, for the first part, I thought he was looking okay, but then, like the rest of the team, just completely folded and capitulated under pressure. But give us your thoughts on the goalkeeper situation, on whether he's going to bring and Onana back into the game against Lyon. Amorim has said we'll have to wait, and you will have to wait. I'll choose the best 11. And then the Sun, however, they were saying that Andre Onana arrived at training with his agent this morning, hours after being dropped versus Newcastle. There's a photo of him and his agent. I'm assuming it's his agent that's being posted around online as well from the Sun, suggesting that Onana's rocked up today with his agent, which is interesting. Romano, though, has said that Andre Onana's situation is one to watch this summer. The interest from Saudi Pro League is still there. Onana wants to do his best for Manchester United until the end of the season. So whether they're set up for some showdown talks for Onana to maybe start looking at potentially a summer exit, that seems plausible, because I can't see United giving him a new contract at this stage. Can you? But maybe I'm wrong. Disagree with me if you want in the comments, but I can't see Onana being given a new contract. So why else would you turn up with your agent? And then obviously Romano saying that the interest from the Saudi Pro League is still there, which is interesting. So we need to keep an eye on that for the summer. Now, also we'll need to keep an eye out for the summer is Alejandro Garnacho. So Manchester United's asking price for Garnacho in January was around 60 million euros, but it can now drop to 45 million in the summer, and this will make it easier for Napoli to land the Argentina international. Conte is still keen and would want Garnacho at the Maradona, and this can make the transfer possible. So that came from Get Italian Football News, fairly decent, suggesting that Conte still wants Garnacho. There was news the other day that I brought you about his asking price dropping down 45 million euros. That's within Napoli's kind of budget and price range as well. So again, that's an interesting situation that we'll need to keep an eye on in the summer. Selling someone like Garnacho is obviously pure PSR home like profit, which will massively help us hopefully have the rebuild that we need in the summer. Because as I mentioned earlier, I can't wait to not watch some of these players in a United shirt again, because I'm absolutely sick of them stinking the gaff out. But give us your thoughts on the Garnacho situation in the comments. Now, David Ornstein also said that Manchester United are looking at Liam Delap and Benjamin Sesko. We'll go through the Liam Delap news in a second. But that's the first time. I mean, Sesko's a player that we have been linked with, but not so much recently. All the noise has been around, obviously, Delap, Osimhen, Gyökeres. The Sesko one kind of felt a little bit like it was rehashing previous interest in Sesko because he's a player that we've monitored before. Arsenal, though, are very, very heavily linked with him as well. So whether we're in competition with Arsenal or whether Ornstein was just saying that he's one of the names on the list, he did say amongst others with his kind of comment as well. But that's interesting. Liam Delap or Benjamin Sesko, let me know who you're picking in the comments. On Sesko, really good kind of, he's not particularly outstanding, but very good at take-ons. It's got really good kind of data, I think, for a striker. 21 years old, which is a concern, but 40 appearances, 19 goals, 6 assists in the in total so far this season, which is not a bad record. Indeed. I've been thinking a lot about because I know some of you will mention around his age because he is obviously still young. He's younger than Højlund. In fact, he's 21 years old. Rasmus Højlund is 22. But I just kind of thought, he's a very experienced player for his age, right? When we signed Rasmus Højlund, and I'll show you the kind of stats in a second, when we signed Rasmus Højlund, right, he'd only played about 66 senior appearances. Benjamin Sesko has made close to 161 senior appearances. That's just between the RB teams as well. 79 appearances for RB Salzburg and then 82 appearances for RB Leipzig. So while he is a little bit obviously still raw and inexperienced in terms of his age profile, he still made a very, very large amount of appearances, in my opinion. Whereas when you compare that to Højlund, he'd only made 34 and 32 at Copenhagen and Atalanta before we signed him, and he's only made 86 now for United. So we're signing Benjamin Sesko, who, yes, is a year younger than Rasmus Højlund, but he's got way more experience in terms of, for me anyway, because I know some of you will worry about his kind of age and stuff, and it is a gamble. It's still a gamble getting a young striker in. But he's got massive experience in Champions League, Europa League and stuff as well. And I think Højlund's struggles are partly down to the fact that he is learning on the job, whereas someone like Sesko, even though he's still younger, he's 21, but in terms of age on the pitch, 160 odd appearances is way more experience than Højlund. So he will have a bit more maturity in his game, for me anyway, than what Højlund is. Because like I said, Højlund's having to come in after only making 60 odd appearances and then learning and being thrown into the first team and saying, "Yeah, mate, off you go. You need to start every single game for the next 2 seasons without any support or anything." Whereas Sesko's been doing that already. So he will have a little bit more experience. But personally, I think he's going to go to Arsenal. That's what I believe. But give us your thoughts on that in the comments. But I thought that was an interesting kind of point to kind of bring in, because a lot of it is made around player age and stuff. For me, it's not necessarily their age, because you can be young but still be experienced as well. And I think Sesko would tick that box where he's a young player, but he's very experienced for a young player as well, because he has been made a lot of first team appearances, which is more than what we have with Garnacho. Obviously, we brought him through, never made a first team appearance, and now he's having to learn on the job. Højlund the same as well. If you can get young players, but they've got experience still, then that would be the kind of win for me. And then when you compare that to the other striker we're linked with, Liam Delap's very similar to Højlund, where 34 and 32 appearances for Ipswich and Hull, and then 23 for Stoke City is not exactly for me someone that's stinking out of massively experience, and I would worry about Liam Delap for that reason. That is a concern, and I know some of you have been sharing that in the comments as well. But that is very similar to when we signed Rasmus Højlund, where he'd only made 60 odd first team appearances, which is a worry for me regarding Liam Delap. But we might not be signing Liam Delap anyway, because Chelsea are accelerating talks to sign Manchester United target Liam Delap. So according to Nave Salt, who's a good source from the Daily Mail, he's suggesting that maybe Chelsea are pushing ahead of United in order to sign Liam Delap. So that could be another striker or another player that we lose out to Chelsea. As always, that's standard. Not that pisses me off at all, but yeah. So it looks like maybe Chelsea are pushing ahead with the kind of Liam Delap move, and then slowly but surely, all of our transfer options are starting to dwindle down because financially we're not in a position to make any kind of advanced deals before the transfer before probably July, because of PSR rules, because of our financial abuse from the Glazer family and the previous kind of regimes as well, which is annoying. but it is what it is. Some of you might actually not be that disappointed with that in the comments. I think it's nice to have options. It was nice to kind of maybe be in for Delap, because if you got Delap and Cunha, I think that would be a good combination that could work both with Premier League experience. But if Delap's gone, and if he does go to Chelsea, we've still got options out there as well. Maybe Mateta, for example, might be one if we don't go like an Osimhen or a Gyökeres or one of the kind of the more expensive strikers. But we'll need to see how it kind of plays out. But give us your thoughts on that in the comments. Another player we've been linked with is Desire Doue. I'm going to say straight away, take this story with a pinch of salt. There is no way I don't think we've going to have the funds available to sign Desire Doue. As much as I would absolutely, love that sort of transfer. I wanted him last season before he went to PSG. But the reports come from El Nacional, who are a really big Spanish outlet, suggesting that Paris Saint-Germain manager Luis Enrique fears Desire Doue could have his head turned by the riches on offer in the Premier League, specifically at Man United. So according to El Nacional, they're suggesting that maybe PSG are a little bit concerned around the financial kind of benefits of coming to the Premier League, and specifically Man United being interested in Doue. I mean, I would be massively excited about bringing in Desire Doue, but we're not going to have that sort of money available. Like I said, PSG just signed him last summer for 50 million euros. They're not going to sell him any less than that, considering the fact that, he's had 43 appearances, 12 goals and 12 assists this season, which is not bad. And there has obviously been instrumental in their Champions League forming run as well, where, I would argue to say maybe they're looking, like one of the favourites at the moment to maybe break their curse and win the Champions League. So they're in no way they're going to sell Doue for, you're probably talking triple what they signed him for even them to probably consider it at this stage. But as much as excited as he would, because he would tick all the boxes we're looking for. But yeah, we'll take it with a pinch of salt, even though it has come from actually a pretty decent source in Nacional in Spain. But give us your thoughts on Desire Doue in the comments. Now, another story, again, take this with a big fat pinch of salt, because it came from Fachajes, and they're one of the worst sources out there as well. But I like to bring it to you because you will probably find this story in a lot of the mainstream news. I've done loads of obviously debunking and stuff like that on this channel. That's why I like to show you where the news stories and share my thoughts around where they're kind of coming from, whether they're credible or not. And Fachajes is one of the worst in my opinion, but you might see this story because it normally starts from somewhere like this and then it goes more in the mainstream when they're bored and they kind of put the stories out. But anyway, they're suggesting that Manchester United have identified Aston Villa's Morgan Rogers, also a target for Manchester City, as a key reinforcement and are willing to pay £70 million to get a deal done. So again, if it wasn't coming from Fachajes, that would be, a decent option, I think, to kind of bring in. In fact, to be a fantastic player to bring in. Young, Premier League proven, again, ticks all the boxes of what we're looking for. 46 appearances, 14 goals, 12 assists this season. So he is definitely a player that I would be interested in bringing. But can't see us, competing with Man City or having the funds available to get him out of Aston Villa, because Aston Villa are not going to sell him on the cheap. So that's one, like I said, I would say let's take with a big fat pinch of salt for now until there's more credibility, and then I will update you on that. So give us your thoughts in the comments. And the final story I've got for you is regarding data. So Sir Jim Ratcliffe is determined to improve Manchester United's database. Mercedes Formula One data engineer and analyst Michael Sansoni could be appointed to lead data at United. Ratcliffe is committed to improving United's use of its financial strength and believes data is a way to achieve this. Now, that came from Simon Stone in the BBC, who's a good source, suggesting that we're looking to bring somebody in from the F1 data engineer to start kind of putting together our own data analysis team and system or whatever it is that he's going to kind of bring in. And remember, Sir Jim was saying that in one of his recent interviews that we don't actually have data analysis at United. I remember reading a report from ages ago when Dan Ashworth was here, was saying that one of the reasons he was potentially sacked is because he was asked about the data and he was like, well, we're going to have to hire in data companies, which were going to come as a massive cost. And Sir Jim didn't like that because obviously it involves spending money, but also, why are we not doing these things ourselves? Ruben Amram said a similar thing as well when he came in, that we need to get all the data and that right and better firstly as well, before we can start talking about signings and stuff as well. Massively important. It's a massive in terms of recruitment and bits like that nowadays as well. Analysing the data and the fact United don't have it is embarrassing, and that probably goes back to the, you know, the slide I showed you earlier around the squad rebuild and the £616 million that we've just literally flushed down the toilet over the last few years for some of those sign-ins. But give us your thoughts on that in the comments below. Give us your thoughts on all the other topics discussed in today's video, because that's you all up to date with the latest Manchester United news and transfer news. Smash a like on the video on your way out. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. See you in the next one.